Hi guys, my name's Adam and welcome to my new video. In this one we're gonna take a look at the third beta of iOS 13.5. Yes, you heard right, iOS 13.5. Apple has been acting very unusual when it comes to the naming of their iOS versions. So after two beta versions of iOS 13.4.5, which was already 5 point something versions ahead of iOS 13.4, Apple has now scrapped the 13.4.5 altogether and moved straight to 13.5. So that means that there are definitely more changes here than just the usual bug fixes and improvements in the minor versions. So what's new in iOS 13.5 and should you get excited about this update? Let's find out. Here we go. I was wondering why Apple changed the iOS 13.4.5 to iOS 13.5, and then I found out something I didn't know previously. Apple has an internal rule that when the new iOS version features a new SDK, that means software development kit, then it needs to have its own major update and can be included in a minor version. Of course, they could possibly do it if they wanted to, but Apple is usually very strict when it comes to this kind of stuff. So now we get iOS 13.5 with new SDK, and it's worth mentioning that this is actually the very first iOS 0.5 release ever in the history of this operating system. We got iOS 8.4, 11.4 and 12.4, but we never got the 0.5 version before, and it doesn't mean that this version of iOS is more buggy than any of the previous ones, but it means that Apple is really focusing on polishing it as much as possible. And even though we're at this final stage of iOS 13 development, there are still few new features you should know about. What are those? Let's have a look. First new feature is something Apple has announced a few weeks back, and it's the COVID-19 exposure notification API. Apple has been working hard on this feature with the help from Google. Right now, this is only just an API, not an actual app. But this API will make it possible for developers to implement the COVID exposure function to their app, and this way you will be able to know if you came into the contact with COVID-19 positive person. Of course, the whole thing will be anonymous, and you won't be able to know who is the COVID-19 positive person that you came into the contact with. Like I said, right now this is just an API, and we don't know how this feature will look for the end user, but I assume Apple will integrate it to their Maps application, or maybe they will make a standalone app just for this. And I expect them to ship this feature with the public release of iOS 13.5, which should come in the middle May, just a few weeks before the first beta of iOS 14. But Apple actually implemented a toggle in the settings which can turn off the COVID-19 tracking. I do not recommend you to do this, as this is just very important, and this feature has chance to succeed only if as many people as possible are using it. But if you still want to turn it off, you can do it by going into Settings, then Privacy, and then Health. Here you can see the COVID-19 exposure notification, and by tapping on it, you can easily turn it off. And that's everything about the COVID-19 feature for now. The second new feature is in the FaceTime app. Last year, Apple added a group feature to the FaceTime, so you can chat with up to 32 people at once. And when you chat with a group of people, they each have their own little tile on a screen. And Apple had a nice little feature in the group conversations, where the tile of the person who is currently speaking was zoomed in and bigger than other tiles. This is really cool, but sometimes there are a lot of people speaking at once, and it just isn't the best way to enjoy your group conversations, especially today at times when we are social distancing, and a lot of our conversations is happening on video calls. And in iOS 13.5, Apple added a toggle to turn the tile zooming off. You can easily do it by going into Settings, then FaceTime section, and here you have the speaking toggle. And by turning it off, the currently speaking person in the group FaceTime call won't have his or her tile bigger and zoomed in. And the last feature I found in this beta of iOS 13.5 is actually my favorite one. We all are going through a very difficult time right now, and a lot of us have to wear a mask at our faces to keep us protected. Actually, it is mandatory in my country to wear a mask every single time you go outside your home. And wearing a mask makes it very difficult to authenticate yourself with Face ID. Well, not difficult, but totally impossible to do so. And even though I'm a huge Face ID fan, at these times I honestly envy the new iPhone SE users to have the good old Touch ID to unlock their iPhones. But when you're wearing a mask and Face ID doesn't recognize you, It actually takes a few seconds before you get to the screen where you can input your passcode, and it's just so frustrating to go through this every time you want to unlock your iPhone. And Apple realized it, and now they made Face ID sensor to recognize when you're wearing a mask and just quickly take you to the passcode screen. And it really works, and it's just much faster than before. But still, I believe that there are some users who wish that Apple would add the under-screen fingerprint scanner to their iPhones with the new software update. Oh, how I miss those days when people honestly believed that the iOS 7 update makes their iPhone waterproof. It was just hilarious. When it comes to stability and performance, I have no issues with the 13.5 beta free, but honestly, I had no issues with the previous beta either. I installed it on my iPhone 11 Pro Max, on my iPhone 7, and even on my 11-inch iPad Pro. But my subjective feeling is that this beta is tiny bit faster and more fluid than the previous one, but like I said, even the previous one was crazy fast on all my devices, so it's probably not even the case and it's just my feeling. Maybe it has to do something with the unlocking with mask being faster or something, I really don't know. I've been using it for the past 4 days and I haven't found any bugs yet, so that's a really good sign. It's very soon to judge a battery life, but from my experience it's definitely not worse than the previous beta and it may be a tiny bit better. But again, those are my subjective feelings. I think Apple really wants to push the COVID-19 exposure notification feature out very soon, so I believe we may see 1 or 2 more betas of this release, and in like 2 or 3 weeks Apple should release this one to the public. And then the iOS 14 beta cycle begins. And guys, that's it for today's video. What do you think about iOS 13.5? It's not a very big update, but it definitely brings a few nice little features and it makes the whole iOS 13 experience complete. Did you install the beta or are you waiting for the public release? Let me know in the comment section down below and don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like this video, it helps me a lot. Also consider subscribing for more content like this. So until the next time, have a great day, stay safe, stay healthy, stay home if possible, and see you in the next video. Bye!